What's up, everybody? Dan O'Neill here, the team leader of the O'Neill team at Signature Premier Properties, and welcome back to the Dan O'Neill Show, sponsored exclusively by Coca Interactive. Today is episode 3, and on today's episode, we have one of Long Island's leading home flippers and investors, my close friend, an older brother to me, Jeremiah Dalton from Suffolk County House Buyers. How you doing, my friend?
Thanks, pal. I appreciate the introduction. I didn't know you felt that way about me, but it's nice to know. You don't really open up or share things with me too much, so it's
I'm not an emotional guy.
No,
I don't really
you're
share
not.
my feelings very much, but of course, I do appreciate everything that you do for me and the team. I appreciate all of the banter that we have. As much as you bust my chops, I do enjoy working with you very much. So, yes, today is episode 3. This is the first episode after the new year.
Should have been the first episode to start the whole show. But,
Well, everyone keeps saying that, but in my defense, like I tried to do the podcast, 2 years ago, and I had you on, I had Charles on, I had everyone on, and I'm kind of doing the same people, but how much has changed since we last tried to do the show is incredible.
I know.
So now it's totally different perspectives. We're in a totally different studio. Like, this is as good as it's going to get.
Yeah, this is legit versus, the side room at Coldwell Banker,
So we have a lot much more production value. We have a lot much more sales under our belt, and we have a lot more education that we can definitely share. So I'm super excited to have you here. I guess getting right into it, I'm going to share the story of how we started working together. So for those that don't know, my name is Dan O'Neill, 26 years old. I'm the team leader of the O'Neill team at Signature Premier Properties. I'm going to say that we're Long Island's #1 team. I don't know if that's an objective fact, but to me it is, so I'm going to say it anyway. And so we work with Jeremiah very closely as an investor, and we handle half of the acquisitions for him. So what that means, for those that do not know, is Jeremiah has a business plan and a setup that is honestly genius, and he's looking at me like he doesn't want me to share this.
No.
But
I wouldn't call it genius.
I would. I mean, the way that you have it structured is very, very smart. So the way that he has it set up is myself and Zach of Team Sure, we handle his acquisitions. So we go on the appointments for him. We run numbers. We run ARVs. We are the ones that are in the trenches, so to speak. And Jeremiah is kind of the puppet master in a sense. And it's,
I guess for lack of a better term.
Right. So, and it's smart and it is genius because you don't have to be going on all these appointments. You don't have to be doing everything and negotiating face to face. It gives you the time and the energy to focus on other things like your family, like other business ventures, like your house, or however you want to spend your time. So, in my opinion, it is genius. So Zach and I both run his acquisitions. We are the ones going on appointments, and the way that we met is a funny story. So when I had first gotten my license, I was on Zach's team, and we were just going back and forth on Facebook, typical networking and messaging back and forth. And Jeremiah messages me, and this is a really good story for somebody that's just getting their license or just getting into it. Jeremiah messages me after, just networking on Facebook and says, "Hey, I have a listing that's kind of sitting. It's a little bit stale. Is there, if you have anyone, I see that you're crushing it." I wasn't really crushing it yet. If you have anyone, please let me know. And he sends me the address. So, of course, I already know who Jeremiah is. I want his business. Like, I want to get in any way I can. But in my head, I'm like, yeah, I have, tons of buyers. Like, I'll run it by them, and, yeah, we'll sell it. I didn't have anyone interested. I hadn't even have any buyers really at that time, except for maybe one or two. So long story short, this random address that he sends me, the next day, the 1 or 2 buyers that I was working with winds up sending it to me. So I'm like, holy crap, like, this is going to work out perfectly. Long story short, they wound up buying the house, and we kind of like ran the deal ourselves. So it was really just being at the right place at the right time and just really getting lucky in a sense. And now, 150, 200 deals, whatever it is later, everything worked out and everything happened for a reason. Did you know that? That it was just luck?
No, I definitely felt there were people you could bring to the table. Mm-hmm. So, I think that intuition that obviously paid off. As far as, did I think that, it was going to did I really think it was going to happen? No, probably not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I also felt like, hey, it was an opportunity to network, to open it up. And it's funny because that same house right now, in that condition, we're talking about that would fly right now.
I wound up going to their wedding. They messaged me recently just asking what the value of that house is now.
Yeah.
Like they're not looking to sell, but they just wanted to know.
Yeah.
So it's crazy how much has changed in a year and a half, 2 years, value-wise.
Value-wise. It actually has been because I know I listed that house. My son is turning 2 next month, and I listed it right when he was born. So it's been 2 years. But at the time, it was a strong market. We've had a strong market for the last, let's say, 5 years.
Yeah.
It's been strong, but each year it just keeps getting better and better.
Yeah.
You know, at some point or another, it tapers off. But yeah, I mean, it was one of those things. I think for people who are out there who are watching this, don't be afraid to, you know, reach out to people. Don't be afraid to, you know, broaden your horizons.
Yeah.
You know, there were a lot of times, I was working with different people. But, you know, I was also searching for the right fit. I was searching for people that wanted to go at the same level, the same pace, in the same direction that I wanted to go. So
Yeah.
I think it goes to, it's a testament to what you were doing on social media, showing, even if you were showing, you were displaying more than was actually, you know, happening. At the end of the day, it inspires people to, they're drawn to you.
Yeah.
They're drawn. That's why, I mean, on social media, I'll be the first to admit I'm not the most dynamic person in front of the camera. But I try to showcase what it is that I'm doing as real as I can, so that, you know, it offers me other opportunities. You know, people bring houses to my attention. They bring deals. You network. You just never know where things are going to go.
Well, so just to back everything up, so how did you get started in the business? I know the background and story, but what made you go from what you were doing previously to getting into investing and flipping and then bringing you to where you're at today?
Well, I always wanted to do this. So, you know, when certain people say, like, I'm living my dream, I'm living my dream. And this goes back, I mean, if you ask my wife, we met 13 years ago. We started dating, and right as soon as we met, like, I had told her, like, you know, I'm here in law school because, you know, I don't want to disappoint my parents, but, you know, in reality, it's not really where my heart is. And I guess in the back of my mind, I was like, all right, well, I'll go get a job and, you know, work my way up the corporate ladder. And I'm sure that'll be fine. I'll be happy with that. And I've just found out very quickly, especially if the economy tanked right when we were in the middle of law school, and then we came out and there was a big recession going on, and I wound up having to do things that weren't even legal related just to put food on the table, and then wound up settling into a role that I thought, okay, this could be a future for me, and very quickly realizing, like, it's all the same.
How old were you? Like when you first decided that you continue, but how old were you when you were in law school and you decided, like, okay, now I'm finally going to make the jump? Like, were you in your 30s or?
So, I mean, I was working as an attorney. I was working for a labor union and was not really doing anything remotely related to what I had gone to school for, even though I had the potential and the capabilities to really help this organization. They just, unfortunately, were too ignorant, really, to see the bigger picture. And I think if I look back, if there's any one skill that I have, one talent, it's always being able to see the bigger picture. And so it was hard for me because I had spent all this money on law school. I'd gone through the time, and I kind of eased the pain by saying, well, I met my wife there, and there's a lot of good lessons, a lot of, you know, skills that I acquired during that time. But big picture, this is not what I want to do. I need to kind of do a complete change. Now, at the time, we were settled into the same house that we live in now. Nice area. We lived, you know, a comfortable lifestyle. Nothing crazy, but a comfortable lifestyle. We had children. I knew I wanted more for them. I wanted more for them. I also wanted to be able to show them more. I wanted them, for me, I was doing them a great disservice by working at a place that I hated simply to pay the bills and not living the life that I wanted to live. And that ate at me every day.
Yeah.
So about, you know, at this point, 6 years ago, I made the commitment to say, all right, you've always wanted to fix and flip homes. Start fixing and flipping homes.
That's awesome.
You know what I mean? And for a while, I think I posted about this yesterday. So many people, they sit on the sidelines. You know, what could I do better? They're unhappy with their life. They're unhappy with who they are. But you have to take action. You know what I mean? And it was a while before I did my first deal. It was a while. It was like a year and a half, just kind of figuring out, trying to, you know.
How old were you at that time?
At the time, I was just under 30.
Okay.
All right. And so it took a while. But I did my first deal. And that's the best advice that I could give people is if you do that one deal, everything starts to get easier.
Yeah.
The first deal was the most nerve-wracking, the hardest. I spent the most time on it. I made some money, but I've made a hell of a lot more money for a lot less time now because you just get better.
I think the last time that we did this a year and a half ago, you actually said that you were almost in the red for like a year, right?
Almost 2 years.
Wow.
Well, and that was because I had some good projects, some bad projects. I experimented with investing out of state, which was not a smart idea.
Yeah.
And coupled with taking money and putting it back in, realizing, okay, like I have to go in a different direction. Everyone's buying foreclosures. Everyone's buying bank-owned properties. Like, I have to offer something different, which certainly people around Long Island already did.
Yeah.
But maybe I could just do it a little bit differently. Maybe I could provide a more personal touch. And that's gone a long way.
Yeah.
And I try to, just appear as real and as human as I can to people. I've always said I'm not perfect. I've got a lot of flaws, but I think people know that I'm pretty straight up with them.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting too is how you built out, like I said earlier, this system that is clearly working. And yes, there is a lot of people on the island that are doing the same marketing, that are doing similar things in terms of trying to generate the leads. But I don't really think that there's anybody doing it the way that we are, in the sense of Zach and I going on the appointments.
Sure.
You're overseeing everything. And
Well, you have to understand, too, I mean, in a lot of other markets, they can walk up to a seller, they come to an agreement, they stick a one-page contract in front of them, they sign it. It's a legally binding contract, sometimes with no money down. I've seen in many parts of the country, like, you don't even need consideration. Some people put $1 down just, to satisfy the consideration requirement. It's a different scenario. So in my case, I realized, one, I didn't grow up in Long Island. Two, I started this system, before I even met you guys. I had started out of necessity. Like I said, I had to build my business while working another job. And I couldn't go on all these appointments. I didn't know the areas. I didn't know, the good part to this area, the bad part to this area. I mean, like, we look at like an area like Setauket, which is a beautiful area, but then there's certain parts of Setauket that for whatever reason just get more money. You know what I mean? And
my mom's house, for a prime example, is, and I use this example at the time to the team when I'm going over comps and in areas. My mother's house in Setauket is probably worth maybe like $350, but 2 blocks over, that same house, or 3 blocks over, it's probably a $500,000 house. So
there are elements that I didn't know, and I knew that I wasn't aware of. I was humble enough to accept that, like, I didn't know that part. So this system I had in place with other realtors, and it worked to the extent that it was able to get me out of the job that I was in. But as you grow, you want to have people that want to grow with you. It takes a lot of time, dedication, and just sheer intensity.
Yeah.
And that was, when we met, I knew that we were aligned on the same page. I knew of Zach. I had met Zach before, and so I knew we were all really driven. We weren't lazy. We were focused, and those are the people that I continually choose to align myself with.
So if somebody's watching right now that is, in their late 20s, early 20s, and they want to get into investing, they want to start flipping, what would be like the one piece of advice that you would give to them, like, to get out there and do it? Like, something that they could take and implement
Well, you have to bring something to the table, right? So you can't just go to an agent and say, find me houses to flip.
Oh, yeah, the amount of people that do that is...
You know what I mean? Listen, I can do that now. I can go to agents and say, hey, if you have off-market deals, help me find something. But I've got a portfolio, over 100 houses long, that I could say, this is what I do, this is my business. And then they say, all right, this is an opportunity to work with this guy. Let me bring this to his attention, So I think what you have to do is, listen, nobody knew me, from a hole in the wall. What happened was that I was generating my own leads. So I always say the first thing you have to do is you have to understand that this is a marketing business, all right?
Right.
So if you have some cash, and the foreclosures open up, could you find a house to get your feet wet? Yeah, you could definitely do that. Insofar as, making this a long-term sustainable business, what you have to really do is you have to spend your time marketing. You have to find sellers who are looking for a fair price for their home, but with no strings attached. Okay, right now it's a great market. Okay, but it comes with its own, trials and tribulations.
Right.
If you can go to someone, if you truly have the money lined up, okay, I always say find the deal first, and then you'll definitely be able to come up with the money, because deals these days are few and far between. The money's always out there, but focus on marketing. Focus on reaching sellers who need a solution, who want to work with you. Sell yourself first, okay? Make sure that you listen to their problems. You know this as well as anyone. It's not always about the bottom line. We've sometimes have not been, many times actually, not the highest offer.
So someone listening right now might just say, why would somebody go with a lower cash offer as opposed to putting their house up on the market? Can you go over some of the motivations for a cash offer, basically?
Well, there's a lot of reasons. I think one, condition of home. They're embarrassed by it. I think that's a big part of it. I think ease of transaction. Okay. And let's not forget, I mean, right now in this pandemic, people don't want anybody in their house.
Yeah.
You know, we get a lot of calls from, elderly people who are comfortable with the idea of just having one person come in, spend 10 minutes, leave, and then nobody ever comes back in again.
Yeah.
And the next time you see anybody's at the closing table. So I think there is really a lot of benefit right now, especially with people who are afraid of, getting sick. But you have to understand, too, like, especially, and we rely on this with our reputation a lot. This is an emotional attachment to people. These homes, like, some people are ashamed of how this house has turned out, but then they feel comfortable putting this house in your hands to make it the best it could be again. That's worth a lot to somebody.
Yeah.
Okay. So the fact that we're professional rehabbers and we do it really well, we're not perfect, we make mistakes, but the fact that we do it really well is really appealing to people. But again, you know this as well as I do. Every house that we list has its own challenges. No matter how perfect the home is, no matter how high in demand it is, especially now with the way everything is backed up, everything takes time. And everything falls through the cracks. And people are lying, and people are misrepresenting themselves, and lenders aren't getting back to you, and title policies and companies are backed up. And so it's a cumbersome market. It's a hot market, but it's a cumbersome market.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, there's value in being able to say, I go to this person, one person only, we pull title. As soon as title's clear, we close, and we're done.
And a lot of people are willing to take that lower offer just to kind of be, wash their hands clean and just be done with it and move on and not have to deal with the uncertainty of the mortgage process, of financing, of an appraisal, of the million different things that can go wrong within a deal. So if you're watching and you know somebody that is, where you see a house even that's maybe even in distress, and you just go there and you leave something in the mailbox, or you leave something on the front doorstep, people are looking for that cash offer more so, I think, now than really ever. And especially because people have equity, too.
Sure.
There's a lot of times we go on these appointments where we're like, these numbers don't make any sense because there's no way. But then you realize, wow, these people actually, they've owned the house for 10, 20, 30 years. They have a lot of equity. This could make sense.
Yeah.
So it's, I guess there's a multitude of things. But so you're saying that it's marketing, really, is the first thing.
The first thing is marketing, getting yourself out there in front of sellers, finding the deal. Okay. Now, like I said, if you can get lucky, if you have an agent that brings you something before it's not listed, take it.
Yeah.
But you have to do that first deal. Once you do that first deal, I mean, like I said, this took years for me to turn into an actual business that I could support and sustain myself on.
Yeah.
Once you take that first deal, and hopefully you do well with it, no matter what, I mean, even if you don't make any money, the experience that you're going to get from it is going to be worth more than any course that's out there, any book, anything like that. The experience of actually doing it will make all the difference in the world. Then, if you're lucky enough to make money, take that money and reinvest it, okay? Whether that's more mailers, whether that's texting, whether that's door knocking, whether it's hiring somebody to door knock. I mean, I leveraged, the benefit was that as I started to make money, I was still at my job. I didn't have to use that money to live. I took that money and reinvested it in different things. And that allowed me to grow tenfold because I was fortunate enough to be able to still work and conduct the business at the same time.
Yeah. How important is it to you, in your opinion, to bring on the right help? This is something that I'm definitely struggling with right now, is like, I need an executive assistant. I need another transaction coordinator. I need a lot more help for what I'm doing. And you, like, I'll give it to you. You have just like an eye for talent in a sense of, like, Connie, who is your, executive assistant, transaction, whatever you want to call it, is phenomenal. And then you had the wherewithal or the vision to bring on Zach and I, like, right when everything was starting to heat up. So you clearly have a really good eye for talent and selecting people.
Listen, I'm not talented, but I know talent. You know what I mean? And that's the truth.
Yeah.
So yes, I think don't be afraid to overpay for that talent, because the amount of money that person will make you will be so much more than what you're paying them. It's an investment. It's not a cost. It's an investment. Even so, I mean, I struggle with this too. Trying to find. Connie started off as an executive assistant, moved into the sales role, and is still doing a lot of executive assistant work. And now we're at a point where it's like, okay, like, now we got to regroup and start over again and transition her completely out of that role and focus on sales only.
Yeah.
So over time, now I'm starting the process all over again and saying to myself, well, who do I bring in? Where do I find that person? I think referrals are extremely important. I think if there's somebody that somebody that's been referred to you, somebody that you've had a prior relationship with, whether it be business or personal, but that they can get that job done, take it.
Yeah, but so like people say this to me all the time. It's like, oh, you should, hiring is friends, family, or referral, or somebody that you know. But it's always so like, in my opinion, it's uncomfortable because then if they don't pan out, then it just.
I think you have to set the expectations from the beginning,
Okay.
and you have to just say, hey, we're gonna start this. Understand that like we're gonna have a trial run here.
Yeah.
And we're gonna see where this goes. You may not like me. I may not like you. And listen, I tell people this all the time. Like, you've got to deal with me throwing 20 different things at you, and I'm throwing the 21st thing before I finish the sentence on the 20th. You know what I mean? Like,
That's true.
And that's how it is. You know what I mean? And if you can deal with that, that's great. Mm-hmm. You may not. But I think there's still, right now, I mean, the crazy thing about this market is there's certain industries that are on fire.
Right.
As our industry is. There's certain industries that are completely in the toilet. Mm-hmm. There's great talent in all industries. So I think there's opportunity for people who are in some of those other sectors that aren't doing well. Mm-hmm. I think there's opportunity to bring them over and transition them. I think you always have to be having the conversation. It's hard to go into stores these days, but if you do, always telling people what you do. Always telling people what you're looking for. I had a conversation. I'm going to be starting a podcast of my own.
Nice.
And there's a company. Nice. There's a company that's been helping me kind of set it up, and the guy who sort of runs it, I was talking to him about the need for someone. He goes, well, listen, man, I know a lot of really good people that are out of work. If you need somebody, like, let me know. You know what I mean? It's constantly, you basically have to broadcast your feelings all the time to everyone you talk to. It's an informal way of networking. But it gets,
hey, how you doing? Yeah, I'm good. I just need an assistant. Oh, okay, yeah, we'll talk to you soon.
But you know what? You at Best Buy. How you doing? I'm running around like a crazy person. Yeah. I'm in real estate. Oh, really? You're in real estate? Oh, that's cool. You know what I mean? Yeah, we sold this home, but I'm so bogged down, man. I'm so bogged down. Like I need like an assistant to help me out. Well, it's funny. My sister was an assistant for so and so.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
And just lost her job because of layoffs or furloughs.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Give me your number.
That's very smart.
You know what I mean? So, but you have to be willing to kind of, I know you joked about this in the beginning that like you don't like to share your feelings.
Yeah.
You kind of have to wear your heart on your sleeve a little bit to people because then people innately want to help.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying.
You know what I mean? And if you do that, then you'll be in a situation where people will be like, well, try this, or I know this person. You know what I mean? So you're always marketing, even if it's in an informal way.
My biggest fear is just, and I had it happen already, where somebody that I knew referred me somebody and it didn't work out, and like I just felt so guilty about it. I felt awful that, I wasted their time potentially, but I got to get over that fear and just do it because I definitely need help.
And the thing is, and I do this too. I mean, I've had to lately pick up some of the administrative slack as well because of things that are going on, and realizing like, all right, it's only temporary, but I know I can't be bogged down doing this stuff.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And there's a whole element to the business. Me driving around all day. It's fun. It used to be fun, but eventually, as you grow, you realize you're not going to scale by going around visiting projects. You know what I mean? And I've taken pride in putting a good product out on the table and being there as little as possible. You know what I mean? We've just brought on, full-time in-house contractor to kind of handle all the loose ends on projects. And that's really important. Obviously we have people that are overseas, taking care of the back end stuff with our leads to make sure they know because they pester you all the time. Follow up here. But again, it's like tightening a lot of those loose ends, and it can be done by people who really enjoy that kind of work.
Yeah. So as your wife, our real estate attorney, beeps in right now,
oh, okay.
We are going to segue into work-life balance.
Okay.
That's a perfect transition.
What does she have
right
to say? Is she making fun of me?
She said I looked handsome today.
She's probably, that's okay.
No, just teasing. It's probably one of our nightmare deals we got going on. But segueing into that, so you've now, you left your previous job, you started this career, this new business, this new venture for yourself. How is you have three little ones running around. You have your wife, her business is absolutely booming. How are you managing anything right now? Like how do you have any work-life balance? Well,
I think balance is an illusion, right? So there's work-life incorporation, right? So I try to incorporate my children into my daily business to the extent that I can.
Yeah.
Again, we are fortunate to have help, full-time help to help with the kids. But again, I see a lot of people, they're like, well, I'm with my kids and I won't answer my phone. Now, I take a different approach, which is you're there for your kids, but, you structure your business in such a way that, people are bringing you information that can be solved with a simple text message. So a lot of times I'm not afraid, like if I'm with my kids, to pull out my phone, look at something and say, type it and put it back.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody out there might be watching, but I don't think I'm going to disrupt my children's, upbringing, their development by doing that. Again, but I've managed to niche it down where, hey, if this is something that needs to be brought to my attention, bring it to me with a text, you know what I mean? Simple statement, let me know. Otherwise, I give people the leeway and the wherewithal to handle things on their own, you know what I mean? And the stuff that they have to bring with, listen, if something's really serious and they answer the phone, a lot of times I don't answer the phone and I tell them, I'm not going to answer the phone, but if it's really serious, text me. Yeah. And I'll call you. And so I set limitations on people, but I also know that they have the wherewithal to say, hey, you know what? I really need your attention here. And sometimes you have to do that. So it's a work-life incorporation that I put in. You see, I take my kids to my flips. Yeah. I incorporate them into videos that I do. I show, to me, the most important part of what it is that I do is I love what I do, and I want to show my kids that I'm living a life that I always wanted to live. It's not perfect. It's got its ups and downs. And what better way to do that than to just actually incorporate them into it?
Yeah, and bring them along with you.
And bring them. Now, obviously, in the current climate, you know what I mean? I have to be strategic about the homes that I bring them to. And obviously, I'm not going to bring, a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old, to construction site where, there's sheetrock dust everywhere. But, you pick your moments. And I structure what I'm doing related to the business around them, and we incorporate it together.
What is your favorite thing about the business that you'd say?
The favorite thing about the business, there's a lot of different things, but I would say helping sellers is really important. Realizing that no one, I think, has ever at the end of a transaction sold to us and regretted it. Yeah. So I take a lot of pride in that. I still love the renovation aspect of it. There are certain houses you can only do so much with, you know what I mean? But then there are houses that you really could have a lot of fun. And that creative side I still like to do. That's more of like a hobby, as far as, and I think really the biggest thing above all of it is just the dynamic with the people. You know what I mean? And there's an excitement, when, you sell a house for above asking. There's an excitement when you get 10 offers on a property. Yeah. That stuff never really gets old. So listen, our company, our business has segued in such a way that we're not just helping sellers, I'm helping so many people who have money aside, earn a great retirement. Yeah. You know what I mean? There's people who have put lots of money, somewhere upwards of millions with me, and they're able to live off that money. Yeah. And it's completely passive. And I've built relationships with those people. We've helped grow my wife's business, helped grow your business, Zach's business. You know what I mean? So you watch the growth. And I think that was really the biggest thing for me, was being in a place where there was no growth, where they didn't care if you lived or died at my last job. You know what I mean? I could be laying on that floor over there and they'd walk right over you. Yeah. And I'm not kidding. I believe it. You know what I mean? It's that was the kind of culture that was created there. Whereas here, everybody's excited about growth. You know what I mean? When you hit a certain amount of transactions, when you get a certain award, or same thing goes for Zach, it's exciting. You know what I mean? When Connie hits her goals for the month and, earns a certain amount of money in bonuses and commissions, I'm excited to see that happen. So I love seeing my own growth, but I also love seeing the growth of people around me.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. That's why you're such a good leader, and that's why we would all probably run through a brick wall for you. So
there's one right there, if you want, and right there. So if you want to test that out, that'd make for a good video.
Yeah, that would. Maybe we'll do a Kool-Aid Man video next. Yeah. So what is your least favorite thing about the business? I think I already know the answer, but
it's people's laziness.
Okay.
It's because unfortunately you're experiencing a lot of growth with people, but this business touches so many different areas, and you have people that are just lazy, incompetent, rude, arrogant, all of the above. Yeah. And it's hard. This business isn't really that hard. Unfortunately, there's people inside of it that make it hard. And that's what gives the business the bad name. And that could be attorneys, that could be inspectors, that could be other agents, that could be other title companies, difficult buyers, you know what I mean? I think, and I try to be, as a seller, be as flexible as I can be. You know what I mean? Our homes are good, but I'll be the first to admit, nothing's perfect. Yeah. And I want to leave as good of a product for them as possible. But then you come across, the buyers, and we know them all too well, that they just want to try to take you for everything you have.
Yeah. That's just people in general.
It is. But then there's those other buyers that are just like thrilled to buy your home. You know what I mean? We had this a week and a half ago, sold a house in St. James. I don't know why, for whatever reason, they were so anxious to drop off the check. I was like, I'll just drop it off at my house. You know what I mean? And I actually let them come in my house.
No, did you?
I swear to God, I let them come in my house.
I've never even been at your house. That's crazy.
And I said, come on in. You know what I mean? And I talked to them because I could tell from my interactions with Zach that, this house was really, really important to them. Yeah. And we put a lot of work. I think we had put really more behind that house than any house we've ever done.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
And the fact that they were so happy with it, I just kind of wanted to meet them. And that doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But seeing their faces and seeing, they were obviously very appreciative. And I turned down less money, you know what I mean, to take their deal for a few reasons. But I mean, I think at the end of the day, I've told you this, it's not about every single cent. You know what I mean? And that's why, like, if we know the players involved in the transaction, I'll always take a little bit less money because, I want smooth transactions. It doesn't always happen, but the more you can aim for it, the better your life will be.
Yeah, and the more you can prepare for it too. Like we there's so much strategy that goes into all of this, like that people don't necessarily realize. It's insane. And we prepare every single deal, every single offer. We vet everyone that we possibly can. We know the players. We do as much research as we possibly can. It's not like you're just going out and accepting any sort of offer. And it's the same thing. Like a lot of the appointments that we go on for the cash offer, they're bringing in everybody.
Yeah.
And it's a testament to you, to Connie, to myself, to Zach, when we get an accepted offer on a house that needs to be rehabbed for less money as opposed to other investors that maybe have been doing this for 10, 15 years. And you can start to kind of see the frustration mount on their end of things because they're getting beat out by us for less money constantly. And it goes to the rapport that we're building. It goes to the website, the reviews that we have. We've never had one person complain that we've bought from or that you've bought from on the cash offer side of things. There's not been one person that has been unhappy.
No.
That's amazing, truly.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, I mean, listen, in essence, they're sort of paying you to make their life easier by leaving money on the table.
Yeah.
So to me, I feel as though, they're customers, they're clients, and we have to live up to that expectation. Because if we're not making your life any easier, then you might as well list it and get more money.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? And I tell people that all the time. So, we'll bend over backwards for them. We'll try to make it work, be as flexible as we possibly can, and be as honest and transparent as we can. We're not the fit for everybody. I'm the first to say.
Did you think of the funniest real estate story that you have or real estate related story?
God, there was so many.
I wish I kept a journal of all mine, truly.
Yeah, I mean, there was that house that you went into where you thought the guy was going to keel over right there in front of you, who was turning green.
In West Side.
Yeah, he was turning green and living in a mold-infested house that he didn't want to live in.
With a tarp on the roof.
With a tarp on the roof, and you're just scared for his life. I think, one of the situations, we bought a house over the summertime that was a complete disaster, a hoarder home. Mm-hmm. Next thing you know, my contractor is making friends with the seller because we were still giving her the opportunity to pull stuff out of the house.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, the seller, he's driving around with the seller, the daughter, all sorts of people inside the home that used to live in the home. He's taking them around places. It was a lot of it's television show related, just because you say to yourself, this is made for TV stuff.
Absolutely. Every day there's stuff that
Yeah. And a lot of the stuff that we talk about that is so funny, you can't really even put it into words. You have to videotape it. You have to see it to really get an idea. I think my interactions, a lot of times with certain contractors will make a lot of people laugh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All of a sudden you get a call and be like, we have this, and it's going to be $10,000 more. And it's $10,000, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's elements to it that are funny. I think the dynamic, I don't think a lot of people see the dynamic between my wife and I. Mm-hmm. She's got to put up with me on a daily basis. And,
it's a full-time job.
That's a full-time job. So she's really patient with all of her buyers. She's not so patient with me. Mm-hmm. But everybody else gets first-class treatment.
Yeah.
Maybe I sound a little bit disgruntled, maybe just a bit. But I think in reality, I think there's that element.
Yeah.
Also, too, I mean, listen, I've negotiated deals, you know what I mean, while being in the pool at my house. You know what I mean? Like,
And you've built that for yourself. Like, that didn't just happen overnight.
No, and I designed it that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think people saw that. I think they would think it was like made up or comical, but that's really how it is. You know what I mean? And I've tried to build the business to be as virtual as I possibly can. That comes with experience. I mean, the ability to look at a set of photos and know what it's going to cost, that takes a lot of time. I used to be floored by people that would just be able to walk into a home and be able to say, okay, throw out a number and walk out. And I used to go around like with a pen and paper. Okay, this closet needs this closet needs, whatever, this room needs this needs this corner over here needs this. And, people kind of looked at me and laughed at me. And in reality, it probably wasn't necessary. But I've built that over time. Because
and that comes with experience.
Experience. As you do it more and more and more, you could just look at something and say, okay, this house, this size, this condition is going to be X. And, again, but I had to start somewhere. Yeah. So I had to go really deep for that first deal. And that allowed me to do a second deal and a third deal. And as I did more and more deals, it starts to become more of an art than a science.
Right. So as we wrap this up, what are your
We're wrapping this up. I'm having fun. I'm just getting going. Like, I'm finally getting warmed up here.
Oh, you should have done a practice run.
Keep in mind, like, I didn't sleep all night because, my kids, like, woke me up. So they had, like, their midnight run. So, like, I'm ready to do another hour,
So what are the goals for 2021? How many houses do you want to flip this year?
Well, listen, ultimately, I just want to stay in the game, right? Like, so for me, every year's a good year that I'm able to still do this. We, want to approach, if I had to say 60 to 75 transactions, I've taken it like, okay, we're going to, at first I just wanted to do 1, then I wanted to do 3, and then I'm like, all right, let's do 8, and all right, next year let's double that and do 15. Next year let's do 30, So I've always kind of looked at that and said, like, all right, let's get steady growth year after year. I don't need to go from, I know of investors who went from 10 to 80.
Yeah.
I've never wanted to be that person. I like the steady growth. Doesn't mean that I won't push for even more.
Yeah.
But for me, what's really, really important is keeping the culture and keeping the business that serves me intact. A lot of people say, well, can you serve your business? You have to ask yourself the opposite question. How can your business serve you? And I've designed this business to serve me, my family, my goals, and serve others within that organization. Yeah. And that's really more or less what's important. It needs to continue to do that. That comes, of course, with increasing, your transaction amounts. So, to make a long story short, somewhere to 60 to 75 transactions. But you know what? We may do less. Mm-hmm. We did less than I wanted to do in 2020. But I look at 2020 as a great success still.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the value, the way the business was designed, the integrity of it wasn't compromised.
Agreed. All right. Well, appreciate you I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks,
do a little handshake.
We're gonna do a handshake.
We're gonna do a little handshake
hand sanitizer, anybody?
Yeah. So thank you.
You don't know
everyone.
where this guy's been. So
you don't want to know. Thank you, everyone. I've been in your flips. I've been in your acquisition appointments.
Exactly.
While you were in the pool. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Episode 3 here with Jeremiah Dalton of Suffolk County House Buyers. Thank you to Coke Interactive for hosting the show. As always, I'm Dan O'Neill, the team leader of the O'Neill team at Signature Premier Properties. And tune in next week for episode 4. And again, available exclusively at Coke Interactive. Thank you very much, everybody.